I'm going to demonstrate how we do an outline. Okay, I apologize that the whole thing is, the words are a little small, okay, because trying to fit everything into the frame so that we can see the whole piece of paper at one shot. Okay, so we go through the steps one by one. Step 1, define keywords and the implications. So this is the question, right? Usually I will suggest that we don't do this kind of question because when it comes to morals, it can be a bit difficult, right? But let's say we have no choice, right? And this is a question where a lot of morals will come in, and we remember that your moral is not mine, and vice versa. Okay, but if let's say we really have no choice and we have to deal with this kind of question, what can we do? By following the steps, right, we can work out something. Okay, step 1, define keywords and implications. So what are the keywords and implications? Okay, so the first one will be we. What does it suggest? It suggests that for this kind of question, we know that this is about the society, the whole society at large, right? Okay. Next, allow. What does it mean by allow? If the context here is about the society, very likely we are going to be talking about the law, right? That we're going to allow by law, okay? And this particular topic has to do with the law. And we know euthanasia. What is euthanasia? Okay, that we allow someone to die. So we're going to just make a note, right? Is to allow someone to die. Okay, and the usual reasons given: to relieve pain or suffering. Okay, so to relieve pain or suffering, and it is legal. All right, so is there anything else that we need to think about? Yes. What are the implications? Right, if we allow someone to die to relieve pain and suffering, we need to think, how is this person going to die? Is it suicide? Is it assisted suicide? Correct? Because if it is suicide, then the person in pain or the person with suffering could just maybe ingest poison, jump off the building, something like that, right? Then if it is assisted suicide, who is the one? Is it a doctor? Is it a relative? Right? And how are you going to do it? So once we think about this, a lot of questions will come to mind, right? How are we going to do it? How are we going to help this person to die? And what are the implications in that? Who is willing to do it, right? And what, are you going to get the person to do it for free, or you're going to pay the person, or what, right? And a lot of things start to come to mind, which is why for this particular topic, right, a lot of people have a lot of arguments. Okay, now step 1, define keywords, key terms, and the implications. Okay, so what else do we have that we need to think about? At the back of your mind, you should be thinking, okay, how are we going to solve this problem, right? Because for every argument, there's a counter argument. So at the back of the mind, we have to think of, and I always say, very, very important B word, benchmark. What is the benchmark that we're going to use? So let's say at this moment, okay, we can't figure anything out yet. never mind, move on. Step 2, understanding, right? And the 3 questions we ask ourselves to form the understanding, which is the one, right, that can help us. So we can see here that should we allow for euthanasia? It's like someone is asking. So who is this person who is asking? And why would this person be asking? Right? Is this person suffering? Or is this person, or does this person have a loved one who is suffering? And we don't want this person to suffer anymore. Okay? So in this case, what is one implication that we can think of? Correct? Now, how do we know enough is enough, that this person has suffered enough, that this person has enough pain, and this person is now ready to die, and there is no cure, correct? It's like there's nothing else that we can do, maybe medically, correct, to help this person, therefore the only way out is to die. Or is there another, like this person is so badly injured in an accident or something like that, that hey, we let the person die, correct? So how do we decide? So these are implications that we need to think of, that we need to consider. Okay. Step 3, find examples. Okay, and I say the yes no column. In the yes no column, okay, we think, if yes, we allow this person to die. So what are some examples we can think of? Okay, and of course, if we can think of some examples, it will be good. If we can't, okay, then we try not to, correct? But let's say we really have no choice, okay, that for this particular topic, I really cannot recall any examples. So then what can I do? There's no choice. I have to go by argument. Okay, maybe this whole essay will have to be argument based and hardly any examples to back it up. Okay, so in this case, if yes, why? Because this person is in too much pain, right? And no cure. Okay, so this is for the sufferer himself. Okay. What is another argument to let a person die? Right? Okay, run out of cash. Now this could be the family. The family just have no more money already, right? You want to keep this person alive, but treatment is just too expensive and the family has no more money, or maybe the sufferer himself has no more money and cannot continue the treatment and the person just want to die, right? Another common argument. Die with dignity. Because a lot of people, when they suffer, especially when they are not so conscious anymore, half conscious or subconscious and so on, they are worse than vegetables, right? And they just don't, they have all the tubes running in and out of the body. They feel that, hey, cannot, right? Let me die with dignity. Let me decide how I want to die, rather than just drag on and on and on and on, correct? Another common argument. Perhaps there's no cure, no hope, and no more hope for that there could be a possible cure. Okay, so these are some of the common arguments, okay, for euthanasia. Now, arguments against euthanasia. What are some of these arguments? And I repeat again, let's say in this case, I really don't know any examples and I have no choice but to do an argument-based writing rather than having examples to back me up. So in this case, what are some arguments against euthanasia? Okay. Who are we to play God? Usually, these are the religious people, okay, who make this kind of argument, right? They'll say, hey, who are we to play God? God give us life. No, who are we to play God? How do we decide? Okay, and there is a lot of implications in this, because how do we decide? Correct? How do we decide that someone has suffered enough pain, right? That someone has suffered too much pain and just no way of curing this pain or suffering. Okay, how do we decide? Maybe medical science is not advanced yet. Maybe we decide to switch off the machine today, tomorrow somebody found a cure. Then how? Correct? So how do we decide? And then the common counter to this will be something similar to this. How long do we wait? Okay. Okay. And what is another common example? Common argument against euthanasia. Okay. In this case, right, this will be for people who are conscious. How about those who are unconscious? For example, those in a coma. How do we decide for them? Correct? And I recall one story that my friend told me before. Okay, let me just share with you to give you an idea of how this can really tear families apart. Right? So this my friend's cousin, right? She was overseas and she met with an accident there, so they flew her back. Now this friend of mine is from a very very rich family. Okay, so this cousin is very well to do, and this cousin, okay, was married and had 2 children. Okay, so what happened was that they decided to the doctors declared her sort of like brain dead, but they decided to keep her alive, hook her up to the machine. Okay, after a period of time, medical expenses went up very 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 high. Okay, this kind of thing is not cheap at all, and they sold the house, okay, to continue paying for the medical treatment. And after a while, okay, the whole family, all the uncles, aunties, cousins, everyone, right, gathered together and they started discussing, because this particular woman's family, okay, started borrowing money from them because they sold the house, no more money, right? So they borrowed money. After a while, initially they will lend the money, correct? But after a while, who wants to continue lending money to this family to keep this woman alive, right? Humans being human, correct? Who will continue throwing money away like that, correct? So they finally stopped lending money. So the family ran out of money. The husband left, and then the 2 children, they had to go to school, right? They still got to and they have not even finished schooling yet. So how are they going to continue paying the school fees, living expenses, and so on, right? So the whole family gathered together and they said, stop the machine, let her die, right? Then the question came up, so who's going to press the turn off button? You? Wow, then everybody started looking at one another, pushing the responsibility. Simply, nobody wanted to be the bad guy, to press the button to stop the machine, right? So it's, how do we decide for those, and who dares to decide, correct? Who wants to be in that position to decide? especially for a person who is unconscious. If that person is conscious and the person says, okay, I want to die, and sign a document to say, okay, I want to die, right? Okay, it's easy. But what if that person is unconscious, correct? How do we decide for them that, hey, enough is enough, correct? So this point can be linked to this point, that when you run out of cash, how? But then yet at the same time, how do we decide? Okay, then we think, do we have any other common arguments against euthanasia? Right? Are we to play God? Right? How do we decide for those who are unconscious? What if a cure is discovered? But how do we know? Okay, I'll just, there are other arguments, but for time purposes, I'll stop here at the moment. Okay, so now the next step 4, how are we going to form our response? Now, usually I would say, if we have more points on whichever side, that is the one. So here I have 4 points, here I have only 2 points. Okay, logically, I should go for yes, allow for euthanasia. Okay, so in this case, I will go for yes, I won't go for no. Okay, now, the other common example that I always quote to you folks in class, the one on abortion, are you pro-life or pro-choice? And I always say, my own personal belief is one thing. On paper, how do I argue? So in this case, although my personal belief is that I'm against euthanasia, but if I have no choice, okay, but to do this question for the exam, okay, and oh dear, there are so many more points on this side than for this side. Therefore, what should my stand be? Obviously, I have to go for this. Okay, I can't go for no. I'm going to be in trouble. How am I going to argue? Right? Okay, so next, step 5. Okay, what is my TS going to be? Okay, so let's say these are the points. So now I think, okay, which one goes with this quite well, correct? And earlier we thought, okay, maybe this one, okay, can go with this. Okay, so instead of putting these two, okay, as separate points, separate paragraphs, maybe I can put them together as one paragraph. Okay, and maybe possibly this one, okay, can go with, this one can also go with this, okay, or this one can go with this, right? So these are things that run through my mind, okay, but I just, okay, maybe I'll deal with the first one, okay. I don't spend too much time thinking, instead I get it down first. Okay, should we allow for euthanasia? This one is a yes or a no question, or is a DYA. Okay, if yes, why? If no, why? Remember, I always say, if it is a yes or a no, I need to ask myself, why? Okay, so in this case, if it is a yes, should we allow for euthanasia? I say yes. Okay, why? Because the sufferer is in too much pain and there is no cure, or maybe there is no possible cure. And we want to let this person just die, okay, to relieve the pain. Alright, so maybe my first TS would be that okay, a person in too much pain or suffering with no hope for a cure should be allowed to die. Okay, so this is the argument for euthanasia. Okay, then the next point that I think it will be quite that I know enough to write about will be possibly this. Okay, who are we to play God? How do we decide? Correct? So I say, okay, life is sacred. Who are we to decide who lives and who dies? Okay, and we can bring in some examples like during wartime, right? Who decides who are the ones to live, who are the ones to die, and so on. Okay, okay. Then we go back to here. Okay, this is a common argument, but if there's no hope for a cure, if there's no hope for a turnaround, how long do we wait? How do we decide how long to? Then there's the counter is like, how do we decide how long to wait? Or maybe I talk about this. Okay. What if we run out of cash? Okay. And then how do we? Then the counter. How do we decide for those who are unconscious? So now I'm going to talk about this. Okay, treatment is too expensive. Okay, and the money should be used for the living, right? Those who are still alive, those who have to continue their life, doing their things, going to school, going to work. These are the ones we should be taking care of, rather than spending so much money on people who probably may not recover. And how do we know that they will surely recover? Okay. So here I'm just writing it out, and I always say when we are preparing the outline, we don't write too many words. Here I'm just giving you an idea. Okay. Now, so what do we? There are other points, of course, which I will not mention at this point. Okay, but just to give you an idea. And what do we see here? Okay, this outline, everything should be on one piece of paper, so that when we write our essay, right, this will be next to our writing paper, and we will look at this and remind ourselves what the points are and what the arguments are. Okay, for the topic sentences, okay, will the essay be in this order? Maybe not. After jotting the rough idea out, we think if this order is fine in this way, we go ahead. If it's not, then we maybe switch around, like this one goes up or this one comes down, and so on. Okay, and a reminder, when the topic sentences are out and we look at it, they should form a summary. Okay, and do I have a rough summary here? Okay, then now if you want to evaluate this a little further, okay, does it mean that I have more points here that I must have a stand leaning to the yes? Okay, actually no, because when it comes to questions related to morals, we can have sort of like a cliffhanger. Okay, at the end we still say no, we don't allow for euthanasia because there is the potential for abuse. So actually there is one very important point not listed here, okay, that if we allow euthanasia, there is a huge potential for abuse, correct? And we have seen in history, okay, there have been a few cases that certain people, right, they say, oh, this person is sick and so on, and so must go through certain treatment and so on, or this group is not even human, and they take this as an excuse to exterminate this entire race, genocide and all that. There's been many cases in history where people use excuses like this to get rid of people they don't like, get rid of their enemies, correct? And if we allow this, okay, there is a potential for abuse. This is where the benchmark comes in. If it is a money issue, okay, yeah, no money means no money, then how? Okay, so maybe, yeah, really no choice. But if money is not, or rather if this if money is not the thing, and money can be measured, correct, then what if the law decides that this person, okay, should be allowed to die, and this person is conscious and he wants to decide for himself, maybe. But if he's unconscious, then how? And how do we know a person is truly unconscious? So that's why some people, they argue that, okay, no matter what, until we can sort out all these small problems, okay, we should not allow for euthanasia. So this is another way of looking at it, okay. But if we can't handle that, never mind. Then we just go for the basic, how many points we have here, how many points we have here, and then we decide based on the number of points, based on which are the stronger arguments that we know. Okay, so we don't necessarily must do an evaluation, or if we see a topic that's related to morals and we don't know how to do it, we skip it. No, not true. Okay, we can do something. Okay, but anyway, my purpose in showing this, right, is to demonstrate to you how we do an outline, okay, and even for a question that may be a little, or for a topic that may be a little tricky, we can still work something out. If we really have no choice in the exam but to choose this kind of question, it can still be done. Okay, key thing is go through the steps step by step and work out your outline. All right.